Noel, if I could ask you first,
Sure.
a lot has happened since the festival's inception in '92, and maybe even more so in the last year or so with the referendum and the Gender Recognition Act. How has that influenced the direction that you've taken this year, or has it? Has it had much of an input to?
Sure. Well, I suppose when you look back historically at the festival, I mean, the birth of gays was the same year that homosexuality was decriminalised in Ireland. At that stage, the IFI had just established itself. There was a small touring package from London, from Flare, what's now Flare, from the Gay and Lesbian Film Festival over there. And there was already a small group of people here in Ireland who were doing ad hoc film screenings in the Hirschfield Centre. And they thought, wow, this would be a great idea to be able to bring these 4 films from London over. And that was the birth of the film festival here in Ireland. And I suppose when you look historically back at maybe some of the content that was available at that stage was a lot of either coming out stories or torch song. You know, gay representation on screen was always seen as the angster torch song character. And when you look at modern day adaptations of, you know, television or screen, you know, every sitcom has a gay character, has a lesbian lover, or so I suppose we've come a huge distance. We no longer have, although, you know, there's still some coming out stories that we see from developing world countries, which are still important. But I suppose the direction that LGBT film has taken in the last number of years has just been incredible. You know, you see more narrative where it's, you know, horror films or zombie movies that have LGBT characters in them, rather than it just being about an LGBT story.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting from our point of view. You know, how we're seen on screen, how we represent ourselves on screen is very important, because, you know, the festival is about sharing the power of our stories. It's about looking at LGBT stories on screen. We know that our stories are very powerful just by their very existence. So we have an onus to make sure that we make people engaged, we make them laugh, we make them cry, we challenge people with what we screen, that we're able to create a platform for Irish content, but also able to, I mean, I suppose the most common thing about the festival is, or what makes the festival, it's about the shared collective experience. It's about people coming together. You can watch film on any mediums you like, at home, on your own, in your bedroom, on your television. But a film festival like Gays is about the shared collective experience. It's about a group of people coming together with a common theme to look at, to observe, to share those stories, to talk about them, to be engaged, to be inspired, to be challenged. And that in itself then brings around change. So I think we're very cognizant of the fact that every year we want to make sure that we have that cross representation at the festival. Well, it's probably a roundabout way of answering, but you know, our audience, we're very aware of who our audience are. We can tell you that, you know, it's 52% of the people who attend our festival are women, 49% are men. You know, the average age is over 45. There's so, you know, the demands on us are, you know, there's a certain group of people who want to come and see women's films. There's a certain group that want to come and see men's films. There's another group of people who don't mind. They want to share the experience. So we have to cater for a huge cross-section of our community. We've got to make sure that we cover the LGBT and I and Q in there, so that, you know, everyone feels included. And that we represent everybody's story on screen.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's about striking that balance then.
Yeah, and that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
I suppose that's where you come in, Roisín, then.
Yeah.
There's so much content available now in terms of LGBT and Q cinema. Even in the last number of years with Hollywood jumping on the bandwagon. What is the selection process like for you? How do you go between, you know, retrospectives and documentaries, and how does that
just I
begin?
guess to follow on what Noel said and what you said, it is like striking the balance. So the first thing you sort of look at is just making sure that you find that balance with the LGBTQI, but then within that, you want to make sure that you have, you know, a balance between documentary and narrative film. And then when you look at the documentary, you want to have a balance between, you know, hard-hitting social issue documentary and then maybe more light-hearted creative documentary.
Right, yeah.
And then in the narratives, kind of the same sort of, that's what I look at as well, would be a lot of dramatic content, like how much, you know, I want to get a certain amount of foreign language content and art house content, but then at the same time maybe more light-hearted comedy content, and then maybe, you know, try and get a bit of horror in there. There are so many, once you get into every section of it, then it breaks down more. It's a huge spectrum. It's really interesting and exciting. I love doing it.
Sure. And then you have all those ones that resonate with everybody in the community, you know,
Exactly.
like those ones of, you know, teenaged angst and unrequited love and the loneliness of that. And,
as Noel said, you know, it has kind of shifted, and filmmakers have moved away from coming out stories in a sense, but at the same time, not to contradict what you're saying, but what I found this year, and I've programmed a few films that sort of take the coming out story and sort of turn it on its head and look at it in a different light. Like we have a few kind of fantastical fantasy films in that are essentially like at the root of it coming out stories, but they're just told in a completely different way, in a really exciting way, and they're some of the films that I'm most excited about.
Yeah. And there are some really strong Irish entries this year. Can you talk to us a little bit about those? The Irish Shorts programme. There's going to be a screening of Paddy Brannock's Viva, which I'm very excited about.
Yes.
The Irish Shorts programme in particular.
Yeah. Well, last year was my first year programming for the festival, and I was a little bit nervous about when we opened submissions about what kind of content might come in for the Irish Shorts, and we were blown away. Like, they were incredible. The standard and like production values, the quality of the films and the storytelling involved was just amazing. And such strong filmmakers in there that are creating amazing work all the time, and we were so delighted to be able to showcase their work. We actually, with the programme was so strong for 2015 that we took it on tour, and that Gaze Shorts, Irish Shorts for 2015 has screened in New York, it's screened in Wales, it's screened all over Ireland. You know, we're delighted with how it went, and we're hoping to build on that for 2016, because the quality of the short films this year is just as good, if not higher. They're really amazing. A lot of very, very strong narrative films again, with some really brilliant up and coming filmmakers like Kate Dolan. We're screening her film Little Doll, which premiered at the Berlinale and has screened at BFI Flair, and she's doing really, really well. She's actually I just met her in Galway. She was part of the Guiding Lights programme. So it's really great to be able to take a filmmaker like that and showcase their work.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's other excellent content in there as well, like Breathe, which is a Film London funded film, but it's an Irish film that sort of looks in a roundabout way sort of at the LGBT traveller story. That's not something that's ever been tackled in any way before, with John Connors, so that's brilliant. And that has screened in a lot of different places. It just screened at Palm Springs, which I suppose is probably the most prestigious short film festival in the world, so we have that film as well. And you know, there's a lot of stuff in there that I'm delighted that
the standard is high.
The standard is very high.
We did a lot of outreach work, I suppose, a few years ago. I've been involved with the festival for the last 5 years, and I suppose some years when we looked at the Irish content, it was slightly hit and miss. You know, one year we had really strong content, and then another year you mightn't have such. And so you're always kind of like on the search for good material. So we developed a kind of a 3 to 5 year strategy for the festival. And part of that was to do some outreach work in schools and colleges, to go around to inform people and to let them know of our platform. And engaging with filmmakers and directors and producers to actually make content for gays, so that we had a platform to be able to present their work. And we still do quite a lot of that work. And I think since we invested time and money into that, we certainly have seen the rewards of it, especially in the last 2 years, because the programmes have just gone from strength to strength. And it's now a case of, when we get the Irish submissions, that, we could practically put 2 programmes of shows together, and we've got to that stage where it's getting so strong. We're turning down good work, because we can only put 1 programme together, and so it's kind of like, okay, do we make a second programme of Irish shorts? And we're nearly we're still grappling with that, because we see ourselves as very much that we want to promote Irish work, and especially Irish LGBT filmmakers, Anna Rogers, all those different people who are making amazing content. It's really important that we create that platform for their work.
Absolutely, and I suppose, at the same time, the festival always welcomes international work, and you guys have had a particular focus this year on Québécois cinema. Am I saying that all right? Québécois.
It's
the imagination.
Queer Québécois cinema.
Québécois. Okay, perfect. So, what inspired that, and what has that collaboration got to offer Irish audiences?
Well, I'd love to say, that I was laying the groundwork for that for years and years, but actually it was more natural than that. I met the programme director and the executive director of the Imagination LGBT Film Festival in Montreal when I was at BFI Flair, and they were 2 amazing women, and we just got on like a house on fire. And we just kind of came up with this. We were just like, yes, let's do it. There is such strong, beautiful Québécois cinema, and there is, as we continue to talk about it, we realised there was so much, LGBT, very strong LGBT Québécois cinema. So I just had the idea that I just thought that it would work really well to bring a focus on a region to gays, and hopefully we'll continue with this. This is the first year, but and it was just great to get the support from Imagination. They've been so amazing to me, helping me to pick the shorts program. So we're screening 2 feature films and a shorts program of Québécois cinema, and they helped me curate that, particularly with the shorts. I always knew that I wanted, obviously, to screen an Xavier Dolan film, because any excuse. But there's so we're screening his film Heartbeats from 2010, which we talked a lot about, because all of his films are amazing, but they sort of steered me towards Heartbeats because for them it's a real Montreal film, and it really represents the city in a really beautiful way, and it's their film, their favourite of his films. So we're screening that, and we're screening a film by another amazing filmmaker who screened at Cannes and screened all over the world, called Chloe, I'm not even going to pronounce her name right, so it's like Robinard. I'm so bad at pronouncing
I'm
French.
not even going to try.
So we're screening her feature film, Sarah Prefers to Run, which screened a couple of years ago at Cannes, and it's wonderful. I loved it. And we're screening one of her short films in advance of that. And then we have the shorts program of it's the queer Québécois shorts.
Fantastic.
Which I've seen them all, and I've curated from a long list that Imagination provided me with, and they're excellent films, and they're so diverse. That is an incredibly diverse shorts program, between art film and more linear live action narrative film. But I think it works really well. A lot of animation in that one as well, actually.
Okay. Also on the back of that, then Québécois are doing a feature on Ireland at their film festival, so we'll take our programme of Irish shorts.
So it's a two-way thing.
So it's definitely a two-way thing. And it's very much like every year we need to do something fresh with the festival. So having an influence or having a slant on a different country or different is what will engage our audience. One of the other strands that we have this year is we're calling Gays on the Fringe, which is a look at kind of radical film festivals that are happening throughout Europe. A film festival like Gays, when it started back in 1992, was radical just by its definition. It was done out of, people wanting to have a sense of community, wanting to come together. It was a way of kind of, in some ways, rebellion against the norm. And that's what film festivals and festivals, I suppose, kind of started from. When you look at gays now, you could say that we're a very middle class, very kind of well-heeled film festival. But we've noticed, and it's something that we've kind of discussed, myself and Roisín, quite a lot, is we've looked at what's happening in other areas like in London and Berlin, where there's this radical movement that started again within film festivals, where you have cooperatives coming together. They're screening kind of homemade films in different locations. There's a lot of feminist film festivals coming together as well on the back of that. And there's this whole new underground movement that's happening, which is what we were born out of. So what we've done this year is we've kind of decided to invite some of those programmers to come along to screen one of their shorts from their festival and to open the conversation with our audience about, you know, where we're going with gays, you know, what is the future for it? Because that's really important, that we challenge our audience as well.
Yeah.
You know, that people get engaged with the conversation about the future of the festival, and they take ownership of it. Because, you know, the festival is only a festival because the people come. Right, so it's their festival. It's not really ours. We just put it together for, you know. So it's really important that we engage our audience and they become part of it. And we get the feedback from that then as well. And that kind of informs us as to, you know, where we're going with the festival in the next number of years. I mean, we're heading into our 25th programme next year, which has to be really big and better. So having those kind of influences is really important for a festival like ours.
Yeah. And there are tons of panels and discussions as well taking over the 5 days, which 5 days just doesn't seem like enough time to get everything in. But who can we expect to hear from?
Well, aside from the Gays on the Fringe, that to me is the centrepiece at our festival. That's probably the panel that I'm most excited about. As Noel said, like, it's rooted in talking about radicalism, but we also hope to speak about the place of LGBT film at the moment, because it's a bit strange, because strange in a good way, that there's a lot of huge LGBT film now, like what The Danish Girl, Blue is the Warmest Colour, and those films are now mainstream. You know, those films are not the films that are coming to LGBT film festivals. They play at Cannes, they play at Toronto. So where is the place of LGBT film? So that's something that we're going to discuss at that as well. And that panel discussion is being moderated by Baron Rowlands from the Iris Film Festival, the Iris Prize Festival in Cardiff, which is it's one of the biggest short film festivals in the world. It's the biggest prize festival. And Iris would kind of be in the same area as gays, as it's a little bit more mainstream now. Whereas the panelists who will be speaking on that panel are from more, you know, grassroots festivals. So we have Helen Wright from the Scottish Queer International Film Festival. They're doing amazing work. Jamie Starboyski from Queer Media UK, which he started by himself. It's based in Manchester, and he runs workshops, and it's very rooted in technology and embracing young LGBT people and helping them to create their own content using, you know, mobile technologies, which is brilliant. And Teresa Heath from Whatever Film Festival in London, which would be very radical and rooted in feminism. So for me, that's the centrepiece of the festival. But we'll also be there'll be lots of discussions throughout the festival. Another one that I'm particularly excited about is our Yestergays programme, which every year Gays presents like a historical look back at an aspect of Irish LGBT history, and this year, of course, with the centenary of 1916, we're looking at Roger Casement.
I'm so excited to see that.
I think it's going to be
we're really
interesting.
excited about this program as well.
So we're screening the film The Ghost of Roger Casement, which is from 2002, but it still obviously resonates really well. But we are going to screen that film, and we have a video introduction to our panel from David Norris, who gives his views on Casement. He loves Roger Casement, I think it's fair to say. He's very interested in the man, he's very knowledgeable on him. And then that will lead into a panel discussion on Casement's place within the Rising. And, you know, he was an amazing humanitarian. And I didn't know that much about him until I started researching this. And I feel a little bit ashamed of that. But and then we hope to open that out into a bigger discussion on the other LGBT figures who are involved in the Rising. So
fantastic. So lots of opportunities for discussions and fun making. Top picks. What are the unmissables?
Wow.
What are, if you had to pick, say, like one or two, maybe three, if you could?
I suppose our opening night film is certainly one of our top picks. Strike a Pose. It's it's a look back at Madonna's dancers who worked with her in the Blonde Ambition tour. We have Kevin Stay coming over. He's one of the dancers from the film, and that's really brilliant. It's kind of it's more fun. It's uplifting. It's really informative. And who doesn't like a good Madonna story? In fairness. But that's a kind of a little bit of a thread that's running through the festival as well this year, because to link in with that, then we're screening In Bed with Madonna on the
Madonna Truth or Dare. It has two names. It had a different name for the American and the European release. So it's Madonna Truth or Dare / In Bed with Madonna.
So we're screening that on the Saturday night. And also kind of linked in with that slightly is Kiki, which is another one that I'm dying to see again. Kiki, it's kind of... I suppose anyone that knows anything about my brain.
Paris is
Burning,
which we screened last year as a kind of for our Pride screening. But if anyone who has kind of seen Paris is Burning and that whole voguing culture, this is kind of, it's a look at what's happening 10 years on, or like a lot of years on from what's happening with kind of young club kids and their take on their houses and voguing. So Kiki is a brilliant one, certainly one not to be missed that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, and that film, it's from the outset it might not seem that it's particularly serious, but it looks at a lot of it's a human rights film from what I can see. It's really rooted in Harlem and like the Black Lives Matter, which of course at this very moment it's very topical, and looking at trans rights and LGBT youth homelessness, and it's excellent. It's definitely one of my favourites in the festival.
Is Upstairs Inferno, that's screening as well this year, which is
it's just so poignant in some ways and kind of, I suppose in some ways kind of spooky, that when we looked at when Roisín programmed it, when it went to print, it was talking about that this was the biggest LGBT massacre that had happened, where so many people had lost their lives. It was in 1973 and there was 32 people were killed in the Upstairs Lounge. So it was kind of like just as the program went to print, then Orlando happened, and as well, I suppose it in an awful way, it justifies a festival like Gaze.
Rallies everybody.
Yeah, people are still being persecuted. People still die. People are still murdered. People are imprisoned every day. Here in Ireland, people are still bashed on the streets for being gay. We've still got a long way to go in terms of rights. Although we're doing quite well, thank you very much. We've still got a huge way to go. And we have an onus at our festival to bring those messages across, not just to our community, but to the wider community as well. And our festival is open to everybody to come along to watch. As a matter of fact, what we've noticed over the last number of years, we had a film 3 years ago called In the Name of the Father. It was a Polish film, and on the night it sold out. And it wasn't one that we had expected to sell. Like, we knew it was going to do okay, but we didn't expect that it would do as well as it did. It sold completely out, and there was people looking for tickets. And it turned out that it was just lots of Polish people came to see a Polish movie. And it wasn't that it was just a gay movie. So it was amazing, that we, because we're bringing good cinema to Ireland, people
are coming out
just because it's good cinema, and that's very important as well.
Amazing,
I would hope that there is a lot of crossover in the programme that
But of course, we've got to mention Viva. I mean,
of course,
our festival, one of our biggest highlights. Mark O'Halloran, who wrote Viva, was a former board member of Gaze. He's always been a supporter and part of our team. Paddy Brannock directing, a whole Irish crew there, and we absolutely did our best to try and get it last year. It was just so much
maybe a little too soon.
Just too
before
soon,
anybody else.
And we're delighted that we're going to get it before just before it goes on general release. And that's on Friday night. And we expect that that's going to sell out completely. So that's a hot one to really make sure to get your tickets for.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, so from the 28th of July to the 1st of August, the festival run. Tickets are available.
Yes, www.gaze.ie or Light House Cinema. You can book them online.
And it's all happening in the Lighthouse.
Yes, all the screenings are in the Light House Cinema. We pretty much take over Smithfield Square for the August bank holiday. Lots of fun and excitement. There's lots of fun things happening as well, you know, over the festival. So just come along. Our yesterday screening is a free screening as well. So for people who kind of mightn't be able to afford, please come along and take a ticket for that. We'd love to have you as part of the festival. And yeah, it's going to be fun.
It sure will. Noel Sutton, Roisín Geraghty of Gaze, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.